the corporate press is in absolute decay. Vice, I mean.
What happened there? What happened there?
Oh, boy. Hey,
unpack that for us, because you were there 2014. You know, this company goes from 5.7 billion. Rob, can you go to their YouTube channel real quick and then go to videos? Go to Vice. You know, they got 16.8 million subs.
Do they?
Yeah, they got 16.8 million subs. Wow. So, okay, go right there.
16.8.
And then go to videos.
It's fake.
Go to the videos.
Yeah, it has to be.
And
You
then
think that's a fake number?
Go to popular.
I'll explain it.
Go to popular. Okay, so now watch this. Zoom in a little bit. Most viewed video ever, 84 million, then 58 million, 50 million, 46 million. Keep going down. 39 million, 32 million, 29 million, 28 million, 26 million. I mean, I can keep going on and on and on and on. Didn't these guys do Fire Festival, the documentary they had? I think they had a list of...
Billy McFarland. How long ago are these videos?
Did you see the one on the top?
10 years.
The world's greatest ass, the Brazilian one? I've seen that a couple times.
Let me... that actually inspired you to want to go to Brazil to find
I've been there twice.
You got to find that out.
Let me just read these documentaries, and then I want you to talk and tell us the story with Vice. So, top 10 documentaries. The Vice Guide to North Korea, 2008. The Vice Guide to Congo, 2011. The Devil You Know, 2019. The Vice Guide to Karachi, 2011. Heavy Metal in Baghdad, 2007. Big Night Outs, 2015. Teenage Exorcist, 2013. Inside the Superhuman World of the Iceman, 2015. The True Cost of Climate Denial, 2016. Inside the Michigan Militia, 2016. I mean, they've done some work. So what happened with these guys to go from 5.7 to now bankruptcy?
I'll give you a mix of conjecture, statements from people I know who worked at the company, and my personal opinion. The reason I think, if you look at their videos that have the most views, like the biggest ass in Brazil from 11 years ago is their number 4.
Yep.
A lot of these videos, I think it's because, one, I mean, some of these things are just overt sex.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of obvious.
The first 4. Yeah, the top 4.
And then even down below.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. In 10 or so years ago, YouTube was panicking because Netflix was starting to steal its audience share. I actually had a meeting with Google, and they said to me, Netflix is our biggest competition. And I said, if that's how you view it, you're in trouble, because that's not what people are doing on YouTube. My view was, YouTube is the place where people go to see viral videos, to upload content, and it's a social media platform. Netflix is a corporate channel. If you want to be like them, then you're going to lose all of this. Now, YouTube's doing fine, right? But what happens with Vice, Vice was producing these documentaries and putting them up on their website. They did not have access to the big corporate channels. They were outsiders. Well, so what do? They say, well, we'll put them on YouTube. YouTube's a relatively new thing. It had only been for like 6 years, been up around for like 6 or so years, and it was a way to upload for free. So if you're running a business and you say, I want to upload this documentary, market our brand, and sell subscriptions or advertisements, I don't want to spend money doing it. YouTube covers the cost of that. YouTube started putting these Vice documentaries on the front page. And this is my personal opinion, having been my experience. I'm sure there's probably more nuance to what happened. With nothing on YouTube that rivals Netflix, and YouTube desperate to compete with Netflix, they were looking for anything that could be seen as long-form content. Vice puts up a documentary. YouTube says, put that on the front page. We need to compete with Netflix. Instant 50 million views. That does not mean people actually were seeking out Vice and saying, this is the best content in the world. It was, this is what was placed in front of me. I watched it. It was pretty good. You ended up with a bunch of pretty cool things, like I always reference the scopolamine documentary.
I love that. That's one of my favorite ones. It's scary as hell.
But think about what it is.
Which one's this one?
It's called the Devil's Breath. World's scariest drug. Go down a little bit,
right
Rob, on
there.
the left. See, the guy's holding those things. It's from Colombia. There's a leaf that, Pat, you blow it in somebody's face, and they lose all self-control, and they don't remember nothing the next day. They're saying like the government uses it to make people do crazy shit. That's one of the best documentaries I've seen in a long time.
But their documentaries, it was a good show.
Yes.
Right? The original Vice show, which then got bought by HBO, it's a whole very interesting story. I think CBS wanted to buy it. And this, again, a lot of conjecture from the people inside Vice who I knew who are high level. My understanding was that they had this hit on YouTube, partially, I think, largely because YouTube was recommending it because they needed long form premium content.
Makes sense.
The brilliance of Shane Smith, the businessman, is once he got those hits, he says, this opens the door to everything else. They started shopping around the show saying, look how many people watch our show online. That could be yours. I think CBS, I think it was CBS, I could be wrong, it's been a decade, wanted it. They said no swearing or something like that. And
Vinny, you're not going to make it on
I'm
that show.
definitely not going to make it on there, Tim. I'm done.
But this is network TV, and so their attitude was like, we can't be Vice if we're constrained in trying to be clean cut. HBO said you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
However, I don't think HBO wanted to renew the show after the first year. And the story I was told, again, I'm being very careful here, was that Shane, the CEO, just announced they got renewed anyway to create public pressure to force HBO to renew them because they had announced all the renewals for next season. Vice was not one of them. And then all of a sudden, the CEO comes out and says, we've been renewed for 2 more seasons. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just rumors from inside the office. But maybe it's not true. It seems like a crazy story. But I was explicitly told part of that renewal was the show is no longer the Wild Adventures of Vice. It is going to be a news magazine with diversity. So we no longer want to see 4 white men. We want to see women, people of color. And so explicitly for me, I was told that removed me from the running from being involved in that when they hired me because I'm too much of a white guy.
You should have just identified as a black woman. Boom,
I'm
you got
Korean.
your job.
I'm Korean and Japanese. Doesn't matter.
They don't care.
They don't care. They say Vice never said this to me explicitly, other than they want us to have more women and people of color. And then I'm just like, hey, how about this? My mom's Korean. They're like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do.
Not Korean enough, buddy.
I mean, you have to look
Yeah.
very, very discernibly to the white executives like you're not white. Now, I'll tell you this as an aside. When I worked for Fusion, they explicitly told me you cannot be part of what we do because you look too white. Have a nice day. It's racist. Nothing you can do about it. But
they straight up told you that. Like,
yeah,
hey,
this was Fusion.
You're a great guy. You bring amazing information. Too white for us, though.
Yeah.
So Tim, okay, I'm sorry. So Tim, here's my question. So you work for Fusion, you work for Vice. Basically, they're telling you to lie and push their agenda. Was
Not
there
Vice.
Not Vice.
No, Vice was awesome.
Vice was dope.
Yeah.
So Fusion was a whole different.
Fusion started out awesome and
then shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was there a moment, Tim? Was there a defining moment, or was it a gradual thing that made you completely shift and become the Tim Pool we see today?
I mean, I think I've very much always been kind of who I am. My dad was more conservative. My mom was more liberal. So but we were very much like urban liberal Chicago family. The reason why I wanted to work for Vice, I don't care for Democrats or Republicans. Never did. I voted for Obama. Felt totally betrayed when he started bombing these villages. And I'm just like, it's just more war. I saw Shane Smith, the CEO, on I think Colbert Report, and he said, "Look, we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans, we're just storytellers. We're trying to go see these things." And I was like, "That's cool." Then I'm watching these videos on YouTube. I'm like, "That's cool. I want to do that." So when I'm on the ground doing this live stream stuff, I'm seeing this. I'm like, "This is clearly valuable. It's getting a lot of traffic. I don't have the best way to monetize it." So I went to a couple different companies. One was Vice, and I pitched this idea. Vice, after 8 months or so, agreed and said, "Okay, we're going to bring you on and have you do this stuff here. In exchange for the live stream reporting, we will do hosted documentaries with you." And I said, "That's great." We did a bunch of really big ones. I went to Ukraine, interviewed. The one I'm most proud of is I was the field producer for the North Korean Motorcycle Diaries, which has 5 million. I went and interviewed Kim.com, which was big for them, 5 million or whatever. So that worked for me, and I was excited for it. But just to go back to the what changed at these companies, when I was at Vice, they never told me, "You have to say this, you can't say that." And with the Kim.com, the man behind Mega Upload, which has 8 million views, they were sitting on it, and I went to them and said, "Breaking news is happening." They're that's why when it starts, it says before the release of this, this thing happened. And then they were like, "Okay, we'll add that to the doc, and then we'll put it out." Like there was no beef. It was literally, "Hey guys, we have to do this because of this reason." They're like, "We hear you loud and clear, Tim. Like, let's do it." The main issue was, as they launched Vice News, things started to become more isolated, more spread out, less. When I first started, it was basically like I could walk up to the executives, walk in their office, "What's up, guys?" Fist bump.
Yeah.
And then within a year, it was they're too busy. They got money from Murdoch. There's a massive expansion happening. You're going to be now dealing with this guy. And so my attitude very much was that guy is beneath me. Having me, who came to you negotiating specifically a new methodology and technology for reporting, now report to a guy who has no idea what's going on, has created clutter and confusion, and resulted in chaos.
Who is that guy?
I'm not going to say his name.
Okay, but he's a guy that replaced Shane, or he's a guy that...
No. He was a guy who was
did he
brought
come
in
with,
to like manage.
But did he come with a background? Like, sometimes they bring
He
the
worked
lead.
there.
Oh, so they promoted within the company.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
they said, you're going to run this thing. And so
Was he a guy that had credibility amongst others in the company, or not? really?
yeah. I mean, except for the fact, I think he got fired for sexually assaulting or something like that. I don't know.
Got
But
it.
that's another reason why Vice went woke.
So if people are advised, they know who you're talking about. The people who are listening to this.
Absolutely.
Okay, they know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so he comes in, you're like, this guy's beneath me. So that was kind of like
He didn't know what he was doing. And
define that. Define what it means he doesn't know what he's doing.
he didn't know how social media worked. He didn't know how scheduling videos worked. He didn't know when people watched videos.
Got it.
He had a bunch of ridiculous ideas, and he was allowed to do them because he was friends with the boss. And that put me in a position where I'm like, quite literally, the world where I grew up and the things that I've built I now have a roadblock between me and the mission because this guy was threatening to quit. This is what I was told. He was threatening to quit. So then they said, well, we'll promote you. So then I go to the CEO.
Mistake.
And I said, yeah. And I said, here's what I want, here's what I need, and here's what I can give you in exchange. He says, agreed. I had 3 of these meetings. I would come back and I'd say, when I came here, I said, I want X in exchange for Y. I am not getting what I asked for. And he says, I'm sorry, we'll take care of you. Handshake. Shane's a great guy. And the problem is, you know, what is it called? The Peter Principle or whatever? You start putting less competent people as they get promoted through the company to the point of incompetence. And so I remember one day I go to Shane and he's pissed off. He's dealing with a bunch of stuff. And I said I need these 2 guys hired if we're going to do what you want me to do. These 2 guys are the only guys I know who have this expertise in mobile live stream, news reporting, field reporting. And he goes, okay, looks at this dude and says, hire them. Okay, done. Bye. We leave the room. The moment we walk out the door, this guy turns to me and goes, I'm not hiring anybody. And I was like, this guy's a huge waste of my time. So I remember it was particularly satisfactory when I quit that company because that's just, I guess that's part of what happens. You know, you start expanding, it becomes more and more corporate. Then the CEO says, get something done. And the guy says, no. Well, you know, you kept him around. That's your problem. And the guy ultimately got fired, I think. I think he got fired because he was sexually harassing women, but everybody knew he was. I mean,
He got Me Too'd, but it was legitimate.
I mean, the stories I heard before it even happened was like, I don't think anybody liked that guy.
PBD,
But,
let me ask you, based on this story, this seems to be a perfect case example from barbarians to bureaucrats, no? Like a bureaucrat was put in, he's a flag carrier. Shane Smith, CEO. How much truth is that?
Well, you have to realize the media. By the way, Shane at the peak was worth 1.6 billion. When the company was worth 5.7 billion in 2017, he owned 28% of the shares. I think he's at $50 million today, but he was 1.6 billion at one point. And Disney used to put $100 million, hundreds of millions of dollars into Vice at one point, and Disney was going to buy Vice, if I'm not mistaken, at $3 billion in 2015, give or take. Again, these numbers can be verified on what I'm saying. Here's the part. On the creative side, like if you look at all the case studies of different media companies out there, right, you have to look at them closely. So there is operators, there's creatives, okay? The creatives that have to operate and grow the company, there are very few of those guys. Like Musk is a creative, and he can operate and grow a company, right? Let's face it. Okay, look at Shapiro, what a smart thing he did. So he's a talent. He's a brain. He's not duplicatable. This is a guy that was going to be grew up wanting to be the Supreme Court, So he says, listen, hey, boring. Look, you operate. You're also creative, but you're an operator. You run Nashville. I'm going to be over here in Florida, and I'm going to be creative, and we're going to make this work and grow the company. And then there's the money guys that are from the Texas people. So when a creative gets to a point that he no longer knows how to operate, you have to step aside and bring somebody that's fully qualified to operate, who can earn the respect of the talent that knows what they're doing. If you bring somebody that doesn't earn the respect of a talent that's doing the work, that doesn't know the basic day-to-day stuff, you know how annoying it is to work and report to somebody like that? Of
course.
It's the most annoying. Now, I don't know the story, so all I'm doing is I'm trusting what you're telling me, so I'm not in the inside. I don't have friends at Vice, but I've heard a lot of good things about this guy. I've heard this guy was a guy that people actually liked working for. I don't know the whole story. Him and I have never had a conversation together before, but to go from that size to now where it is today. So another question for you with profile of Vice. So when you work at ESPN, they have a certain profile on who they recruit that does well at ESPN. They all stand up tall. They all got their shoulders perfect, stand up. They're 6 feet tall. And so today we're going to look at the highlights of the Lakers. Look what happened with LeBron James and Antonio. They got a certain thing that they're looking for. Profile, who they recruit, Columbia University, where you come from. Boom, you fit perfect in here. Mm-hmm. Profile for Fox, profile for this, profile for that. What was the ideal profile of people they brought into Vice? Was it rebels? Was it, how CIA sometimes... we got friends in the CIA. We've had a lot of them on the show here. Who do they hire? Preferably somebody that doesn't have, maybe got some ties with parents. You don't have anybody you're really living for. There's a part of you that's willing to risk it all. You're not that tied to anything that emotionally somebody can. There's these profiles you look at, right? What was the ideal profile of somebody they brought in Vice at their peak? At their peak.
I was only there for, there for about a year and a half. I don't want to, they had 20 years before I was there. But I think if you look at me, the obvious answer is hipsterish, post-punk.
Was there a lot of guys like you in there?
I mean, what do you mean by guys like me?
Hipster, punk,
Because I'm like a weird guy, but I would say confident, capable outsiders. So,
confident, capable outsiders. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so it's tough to describe. I mean, they have hipsterish kind of people. They had roguish people. Around the time I joined, and this is obviously how it was going. They took the $70 million from Murdoch, I think it was News Corp or something, and then started firing the OGs and bringing in LinkedIn professionals, and that really changed a lot. They had, without getting too specific, because I want to keep people to give people their privacy, but there was like one guy who clearly would not be in a New York media company handling this part of the company, and with the company for a really long time. $70 million come in, they axe him in 2 seconds, and then go on LinkedIn and then find some professional from a corporate news channel, and now she's running the show.
Does that affect culture within the company?
Oh, yeah. Yep, and I think I wonder. For one, I think Shane Smith is a really good guy. Anybody who actually was good at their job and was capable had no issues with him. It was the people who were lazy and incompetent that would complain. It's like, dude, that's anybody complaining about their boss. But I've heard nothing but good things about him, and he took care of the people around him to a great degree. But as he starts rising up and the company's expanding, a separation starts to begin between the leader, who has built the confidence of his people, and now these subordinates who generate no confidence at all. So, I don't know. What was your question again?
The type
profile.
of person.
I was more looking at the profile part. So you said confident, capable,
well, like young,
outsiders.
hip people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you charismatic, young, and
were a lot of people like you who came knocking on the door saying, "I'd like to be at Vice," or did they go looking?
No, that was it.
So it was more people wanting to be part of Vice.
Yeah, Shane, I think publicly stated it was a cult. That I'm pretty sure he
most big companies are, though. I mean, Apple was a cult. Most of these companies that make it to that size, they have that kind of a feeling.
I think he said something like, when people started begging him to work for him, saying they would work for him for free, he realized he had something. Mm-hmm. And there was that Supreme Court case around interns that made them get rid of a whole bunch of the unpaid labor that they did have. But when I quit, every single person in media was shocked. Like, that I knew. I'm not saying like literally everybody media outlet was talking about it. I'm saying like the people I knew, agents, networks, my friends. Why would you quit Vice? Wow, are you crazy? This is the company. And I was just thinking like, no, look where they are now. You know what I mean? I don't think Shane's unhappy. He's still worth $80 million or more. He cashed out $30 million. He's got more money he can ever spend, and he said that. But
did you see the writing on the wall ahead of time? It wasn't just the bureaucrat that you were dealing with on a corporate level.
At what level? At what time frame? Like, at what point did you know the writing was on the wall?
I mean, the changes that were happening implied chaos, right? We built this office, then a week, several months later, well, it's a different office now. We're going to move this office here. Now we're going to move it back. And I'm like, they're spending tens of millions of dollars on a $30 million in New York. Then they bought another portion of the building. Then they're planning on moving. I'm like, it doesn't seem like there's a long-term plan here. And the other issue was, one of the things that Shane's really, really good at, I remember talking to a friend after I left. They have what's called the State of the Union at the company. And this is a story as it was told to me. Could be wrong. He comes out and he says, ladies and gentlemen, we got our cable channel. And everyone, and they're all screaming and cheering. There's pizza, beer, and ice cream. And so my friend is talking to me, and he says, I'm going to be running news production for the cable channel. And I went, wow. So what, are you moving to Toronto? No. What do you mean? Oh, I thought you were going to work on the cable channel. He's like, I am. And I'm like, oh, okay, so are you going to be living in Toronto? And he goes, bro, why would I be living in Toronto? I was like, it's a Rogers Telecom deal. It's a Canadian cable channel.
Yeah.
And he was like, huh? You see, what Shane was really good at was assumptive language. He said, we got our cable channel, creating the idea in the minds of the employees that Vice was the biggest and the best, and they were going to be on American terrestrial, cable networks. At the time, it was Canada. It was 30 million, people at max and 20 million households. But the employees that I knew, well, they made the mistake of assuming they were going to be American cable television. So he was really good at rallying and boosting morale and making people think they were on the mothership of the greatest media empire on the planet, when in reality it was like, a nice-sized yacht. But you're not the $100 million yacht out there with Bezos on it. You're the, $15, $30 million yacht that can carry 20 people.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.